are back at Hollywood Smoke in the city of Santa Monica. Steve Kim, joined by Doug Fischer and Michael Montero. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be very, very honest about this. This is the dog days of summer as we enter August. There's not a lot going on in boxing, but guys, I was watching TV, going through the clicker, and I saw once again on the Sundance Network a Rocky marathon. I think every single cable entity shows a version of Rocky or has a Rocky marathon. And you know what? To me, it's like Karate Kid or Caddyshack. If it's on a certain ones, I'll give it a look-see. And I did that once again. Question is, out of all the Rocky franchise movies, going from Balboa to Creed, going back to the first one back in 1976, which one is the best?
You asking me? It's hard. Listen, I'll say this. The first movie is the best in terms of filmmaking. As a film, it is the best directed of all of them. The first was the best. The sequel, Rocky II, I think is the best in terms of story and character development. You learn more about these people that were introduced in the first movie, particularly Rocky and Adrian. But for me personally, it's Rocky III. And it's not. And Rocky III is not a great piece of filmmaking. It was just so much fun. It just jam-packed. But it also had these like storylines that are true for boxers, where, you know, we see that being guys who cover boxing, we see guys who start off as nobodies. You know, they work their way up the ranks, or they get a huge opportunity, and they make the most of it. They become champions or title holders or whatever, and then the people around them, and often they do it, you know, for the fighter's own good. They protect them. They want to keep it going. Like, hey, we hit the lottery by this guy winning that fight and getting a world title. People know who he is. Let's build him up as a star. Let's milk this thing. It's time to cash out. Let's make some money. And you do that by not putting your guy in tough. You put him in fights that you know he's going to win, and you build him up more as a star than as a fighter. And that was really the story of Rocky III, was he thought that he was a real champion, and he was the heavyweight champ, and he was popular and all, but Mickey was matching him with the right guys and trying to keep him away from the Clubber Langs, the Mr. T's of the world. And then he gets annihilated by Mr. T, and he's got this crisis of like, was I ever who I thought I was?
Yeah,
and that's a very real thing, and
Doug,
it resonates with anybody, right?
Rocky III, the opening montage with Eye of the Tiger, I think is iconic. And I remember Evander Holyfield speaking about that scene. ESPN Classic years ago aired that movie with reflections from boxers and people in boxing. And Evander Holyfield said that the opening sequence with Eye of the Tiger said, I've been through that. I've been the hunter and I've been the prey. We all go through that at different times. And Evander Holyfield said, I've gotten complacent as the champion. Now, I think Rocky, to me, is still the masterpiece. I think it's still the definitive one of that series for a couple of reasons. It really launched Sylvester Stallone into being a superstar. And number two, Mike, I've talked to numerous fighters from that era. It inspired a lot of boxers to actually get into the sport. And it was part of the renaissance of the 70s of boxing on network TV.
It really, really was. And it kind of made boxing cool again for a new generation of fans. And as the resident Italian-American here on 10 Count.
Must have loved it. Oh, my God.
It was a prideful thing. And it was a relatable thing for a lot of working class, blue-collar Italian-Americans in that part of the country. That story, we could relate to it. And it was one that it translated. And I think you guys are right. As far as the art behind it and the way the film was put together, that is the best one.
Yeah.
One thing about Rocky III, who knew Mick was the original Al Heyman? Right? Because he really kind of was, and Rocky was kind
Mick
of...
knew the business.
Well, no, Mick didn't have both sides, though. I would say Mick was really an older version of Shelley Finkel or Cameron Duncan.
Or even a Customato.
Right.
Who was a trainer, manager, and he knew his fighters' strengths and their weaknesses.
You know what, though? You learn a lot about boxing and the mindset of boxers in the movies from one-liners. I still love the first date that Adrian and Rocky went to when Rocky had to hand that guy $10 for like another 10 minutes on the ice rink that was closed before Thanksgiving. And by the way, the guy shorted him on his time. They only stayed there for 5 minutes, but a line that I like to use is they're on the rink and Adrian is kind of shuffling along the ice and Rocky is walking next to her. And this thing is such a poignant line. She says to Rocky, "Why do you fight for a living? Why do you box?" And he said, because I can't sing or dance.
'Cause I can't sing or dance,
And every
yeah.
time an older fighter comes back, and you ask them, Doug, we've done stories, hey, why are you coming back from retirement? Why are you returning to the ring? All their answers are variations of, because I don't want to sing or dance. This is
Right.
what they are. This is what they do.
This is all I do. This is who I am.
And I just love that touching scene. And I'll be honest with you, Mickey kind of treated Rocky like a sack of garbage in the beginning. Threw him out of the locker room, cussed him out at the gym. Rocky was very forgiving. I'm going to call him Joe because when I got that shot, or if I'm Rocky and I get that shot against Apollo Creed, I don't know if I would have taken Mickey back on as my trainer-manager, the way he treated him.
Yeah, he was a forgiving guy, took him on. I think he knew he needed Mick, right? He needed him. Mick was his backbone before Adrian, obviously. And another poignant scene is when he cusses Mick out and Mick leaves, and then he thinks about it. He's like, oh, shit.
Runs
Runs
out
down the
to get him
stairs.
down the street, yeah.
And you don't hear what they say. You just see him in the distance talk and kind of hug, and it's like, all right, cool, let's get to work.
And by the way, did the Rocky series begin the genre of the sports movie montage with the music?
Well,
and
he
training?
definitely perfected it with the third movie.
Yeah.
And that was
And they took it to another level
80s.
in Rocky IV with that, which was also sort of an 80s.
Well, that was
quintessential 80s. Like
Yeah.
Rocky 3 just to me sums up the
Yeah.
80s. You had, Hulk Hogan and Mr.
Yeah.
T and
But,
the
and their
montage.
physiques, everybody
All
got
of it. And the
ripped up,
steroids.
and everyone's covered in baby oil.
They weren't doing
Yeah,
VADA testing. They
They
were
were
not
not,
doing
yeah.
VADA
But
But it was
testing.
at all.
the bromance between Apollo Creed and Rocky, and just Apollo
Oh,
coming
yeah.
back to help
By the
him
way-
out.
And Rocky ended the Cold War.
Yeah,
Can we
he
get
did.
some credit? Rocky single-handedly ended the
Everybody
Cold War.
changed.
You know what's funny?
That's right. We can all change.
You know what was more unrealistic than any of the fights? Was Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone, actually out-sprinting Carl Weathers, a former NFL player, in a sprint.
That's
Does
when you knew he
anyone
was ready.
really believe
No.
that a white guy was going to beat Carl Weathers in a sprint on a beach? That's unbelievable. Rocky IV, I've always said, was a Cold War propaganda dressed up as a movie, and I've said this as someone that's worked out to it many times with my Walkman, and I still have a Walkman.
Yeah.
What a great soundtrack. That soundtrack will have you burning 200 extra calories because
Particularly
it
when
will
he's
inspire
in
you.
Russia or Siberia and
Yeah.
that
Right.
snow and that whole workout.
And
yeah,
the
that's
beard,
it.
he brought back the man beard thing. Before it was cool, before everybody
That's
in Silver Lake was doing it. How about this, though? I'm going to surprise you guys with this, and I don't know if you'll agree with me. I liked Rocky Balboa better
Than Creed? Wow, really? Why?
More touching, there was more heart to it. I felt Creed was a 21st century remix for millennials, and they were trying to appeal to that crowd. I thought Rocky Balboa had this heart to it that is underrated.
I like the fact he didn't beat Mason Dixon because it was just
Yeah.
so unbelievable that Rocky Balboa at his age was going to beat a guy that was so highly regarded. The problem I have with Creed, and I thought Creed was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
But
good.
the fact that little things like when the guy's having smokers in a Mexican bar and there's no commission there and he's wrapping his own hands. And then Doug, I don't know how believable it is that a guy that literally has no pro fights a guy, Tony Bella, who's supposed to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. There's something about that. It's stretching.
Yeah, I went to that movie with my wife, and I enjoyed it because I went in there as a Rocky fan. And I viewed it as this is not taking place in the real world. This is the Rocky universe. And from that perspective, it's all fun because of the continuity. It paid so much homage to the previous films. And you like that as a hardcore geek fan of anything. When we left the theater, my wife said, I like the movie. I like the main character. I like the romance. I think that was a good young love story. But the boxing, it was just too unrealistic. And she pointed out the exact same things that you pointed out. Him wrapping his own hands, being basically
No commission members
solo,
around. Yeah.
If you're going to talk
even in
about
Tijuana,
unrealistic, that sprint on the beach, I think the Creed thing was way more unrealistic. And one thing about the Creed movie that it annoyed the shit out of me, everyone had an undefeated record.
Right.
And it just goes to show, and look, I'm sorry, I know I beat up on Floyd a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't start this, Roy Jones did,
Yeah.
but he made it worse to where now it's even infiltrated movies
Yeah.
where every fighter
Everyone
has to have
has
an
to be
undefeated
undefeated.
record
Yeah.
to be the pound-for-pound guy.
I do think Creed did a nice job of setting the stage and the atmosphere of a UK fight crowd, and with the cell
Very
phones,
good.
and
Very
also,
good.
I've been to a lot of sparring sessions in the gym. We all have. I've never once seen a real gym with responsible people allow a real fight to break out. I could count on the number of times I've seen guys actually hurt or knocked down in sparring.
Very
the
rare.
fact that Creed was knocked cold, I'm just like, come on, that does not happen.
And his first trip to the gym.
Yeah, but I'll say this. I think it's unanimous. Rocky V, it's what I call the Richie Cunningham brother of the series. Remember Richie Cunningham had an older brother in Happy Days?
Yeah.
And one day he just went upstairs, never
Never
return.
came back.
Yeah, like they just got rid of the character. That's Rocky V. That thing jumped the shark. That's when I said, I remember watching that in 1990. I said to myself, oh my God, this series is dead. I think by far it's unanimous. That's the worst movie of that series.
Yeah, but I still have a soft spot for it because
Tommy Gunn?
Morrison.
Tommy Gunn.
Yeah, the late Tommy Morrison.
And Don King. Remember the Don King?
The guy who
That
played
was
the
the
Don
best
King.
part
was
of that
great.
movie is
Yeah.
they dissed the hell out of Don King.
Yeah.
I love that. It was
Punch me, and I'll sue.
Yeah.
Go ahead, boy. Punch me and I'll sue. Yeah. Sue me for what? It was great, man. It was another great one-liner. The one thing about the Rocky series that I think they have done well, I do believe Rocky V was one of the only ones that Stallone didn't write. I'm not sure about that, but he didn't write. Oh, okay. Maybe that's what screwed it up.
He served as director for after the first movie. I think he was like the director for.
Man, he screwed that one up.
And that movie starts off with Rocky losing all his money because Paulie made bad investments. Let me get this straight. You're a multi-million dollar. Yeah, you're a multi-million dollar athlete. You don't have E.F. Hutton or one of these other groups. You don't have Lee Steinberg or you don't have somebody investing your money, but your brother-in-law, Paulie. You don't even have old Gazzo, like make bets and open up.
Yeah.
Gazzo. I mean, all right, final question as we wrap this up. Who was the best Rocky foil? Was it Apollo? Was it Clubber Lang? Or was it Ivan Drago?
Jeez.
Hands down, Clubber
Lang,
I thought,
man.
there's
Come
never
on.
been a more
Really?
menacing character like that.
He had the best energy.
Yeah,
Southside
dude,
Slugger from Chicago.
Yeah, it was perfect, and he embodied that character
Pity the
so
Fool.
well. Yeah, all
Prediction?
of it.
Pain. I
Pain.
mean, people who haven't seen the movie say that stuff.
And then when
Those
he talks
became
shit to
catchphrases.
he talks shit to Adrian, come over
Hey,
here,
woman.
Hey, woman. Yeah, all that. It's just,
Let me show you a real man.
Yeah.
That was a Jack Johnson line, I think. Also, I just love the fact at the end of the montage, he sees Mickey in the crowd and he said, "You tell Balboa, I'm coming for him." And that
Mickey is watching
Yeah.
him and is
He's
terrified.
like,
Exactly.
Here's another thing and you got a little bit of this with Drago with the drugs, with the steroids, and doing the indoor track with the speed bags set up all around it, which was just, that's right out of the mind.
You know what? He got a TUE too. He
yeah.
wasn't doing Vada either,
Stallone.
Drago.
No, but with Clubber Lang, you referenced the opening montage while Rocky is on the Muppet Show and doing talk shows and Sesame Street, personal appearances and all the celebrity stuff. We see him doing sit-ups and
By
pull-ups
himself in a dungeon.
by himself, and grunting everything out, and then literally knocking guys out of the ring and all that. So we kind of see, even though it's just in the form of a montage, just a couple of minutes, we see his blood, sweat, and tears to get to that plateau.
And I just love the fact that Rocky worked out in the ballroom of a hotel with a bubble machine. That had to be the softest training camp I think I've ever seen. But you know what? I got to give word of praise to Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed because obviously he was supposed to be a Muhammad Ali-esque character. And I think technically, let me tell you something, he has a better jab than most heavyweights today.
It's quick, isn't
He does. It's quick, and the way
pop it on the fly.
His 1-2 is nice.
Yeah, it was.
And
And I thought to me, the way he portrayed that brash character, and I still remember.
But with dignity. Yeah.
And I still love the fact that on the first fight with Rocky Balboa, he came in as like the Black George Washington riding the Delaware River, and he had the white wig on. and then tragically he dies against Ivan Drago. But that entrance with James Brown living in America. And you know what? Rocky would not throw the damn towel. That was sad, man. Because you had Mickey died before the first fight. Then you had Apollo die.
No. Mickey died in
Of a heart
the third
attack.
one.
Yeah.
But
before the Clubber Lang fight.
Yeah, right. But Creed died in Rocky IV. They died in different movies.
Do you think Rocky did the right thing? Telling Mickey we won this fight? Do you make a dead man happy? No, seriously. Do you think he did the right thing?
Why not?
I don't know. I think you owed the guy some truth, didn't you? Like, Mickey, we got knocked
Mickey
out.
knew the truth.
Yeah.
He knows
If he didn't get back in there with Clubber Lang and win the rematch, then there would have been a problem with
And
that.
by the way, we've been to a lot of gyms in LA. The gym that Apollo took Rocky to, I've never seen a gym that dirty or dingy or that black. I'll be honest. We've been to Hoover Street Gym. We've been to some gyms.
Yeah.
I've never seen a gym that
Broadway.
angry before.
You'll see that
What
gym
about
in
Champs
Detroit.
in Philadelphia?
Yeah, maybe Champs. We did
Maybe
run.
Champs in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia.
And another great line from Mickey, his last thing here. He told Rocky as he was packing up his stuff, he said, the worst thing happened to you that can happen to a fighter, you got civilized. Another great line. You hear a lot of great things. So that's it, folks. Folks, there's not a lot to talk about in boxing, so we might as well talk about this. So on behalf of Doug Fischer and Michael Montero, this is Steve Kim. This has been another edition of The 10 Count.